Traveling to another country or a new place for the first time is always so exciting. There is this wonderful thrill of planning your trip, choosing where to stay, and making a list of places you would like to visit. However, taking time to research what to expect can really help your journey go more smoothly and make your experience so much more enjoyable. And in this video, I would like to talk about different things that you should keep in mind if you're planning to visit Medinas in Morocco. Hello everyone, warm welcome to my channel. I am so glad that you are here. So, what is Medina in Morocco? Medina is the old historic part of a Moroccan city surrounded by ancient walls, and it dates back many centuries, and it was traditionally the heart of urban life. Today, Medinas are still vibrant and bustling places where you can find traditional markets that are called souks, ancient mosques, beautiful riads, and maze-like narrow streets. Many people refer to it as the Old Town because today's Moroccan cities have grown far beyond their ancient walls into extensive, more modern districts. The Medina is actually quite small compared to the rest of the city, and it remains one of the most traditional and culturally rich areas. Now that you know what Medina is, let me share some important tips that will help make your visit more enjoyable and hopefully less stressful, because you can't go to Morocco and not to visit a local Medina. As always, this information comes from my personal experience, and I've also done quite a lot of research where I found that many other travelers have had similar experiences to mine, or I encountered other common situations that people frequently talk about. So let's get started. Tip number 1. Something really important to know about Morocco: it's still very much a cash-based country, so you always have to carry cash with you. This is something you should do even outside of Medina. While in big cities, large establishments like upscale restaurants, major hotels, and modern shopping centers, people normally accept cards. You'll be surprised how many places operate on cash only, even in the new places of cities. And when it comes to Medina, cash is pretty much your only option. Things like shops, big or small, transport, public or taxi, local restaurants, and even some riads only accept cash. In fact, even if your riad accepts card payment for your stay, they usually ask you to pay your city tax in cash, and you will have to pay it for pretty much every riad or hotel. Local currency is Moroccan dirham, and you can only get it once you are in Morocco. Make sure to plan your cash needs ahead. While ATMs are widely available in cities, you might be caught without cash in smaller towns, and it can become a real problem. In the big cities and towns, you can find ATMs around major tourist areas and city centers, but I suggest withdrawing money in advance rather than finding yourself in a situation where you urgently need notes, especially if you are planning to visit Medina. It's best to use ATMs attached to actual banks rather than standalone ones in the streets. Also, try to keep plenty of small notes and coins. Many vendors might struggle to give you change if you pay with big notes, and some might even tell you that they don't have change. So, sort out your cash first. Remember that you should always have small notes and coins, and watch over your bag when walking through Medina. Tip number 2. When shopping in Medina, especially in popular cities like Marrakech and Fez, be aware that you will rarely see price tags in most shops. There are some exceptions, but I will talk about them in other videos. You may have heard that bargaining is an ancient tradition in souks, and if you are not comfortable with it or feel awkward about bargaining, you might end up paying way more than you should. Most goods sold for tourists in Medinas are typically priced at least 2 to 3 times higher than their real value, and sometimes even more depending on a shop. These are some tips I learned from some lovely local people during our trip. First, you should cut the price in half if it seems somewhat reasonable, or even 1/3 if the price you are offered seems significantly inflated. From there, you can gradually work your way up. You can add another 15 to maximum 20% on top of that, but I wouldn't recommend going higher than that. If you can't reach an agreement at this point, it's better to walk away. Secondly, don't be surprised if the seller becomes quite emotional or dramatic when you try to negotiate. They might offer you their absolutely final price or claim that they're giving you a special deal just for you. Don't let this immediately persuade you into making the purchase, just because you feel guilty about bargaining. Remember that bargaining is an art form here. Whoever is most skilled at negotiating usually gets the better deal. This can be very unfamiliar and uncomfortable at first, especially if you're like me and used to shopping with fixed price tags. But that's the tradition and it's expected from you. Most importantly, always stay calm and friendly even if you're unhappy with the price or if the seller is being too pushy. Simply end the conversation in a light-hearted way, bid them farewell, and you can even compliment on their persistence, even if it annoyed you, before leaving the shop. Never become hostile or try to argue with the seller or prove your point. If you're not satisfied, just leave the shop with a smile. Tip number 3. That being said, a lot of shops in Medina sell identical items. While there are some unique shops where people literally craft things themselves, these are actually quite rare. Most goods like souvenirs, lamps, clothes, spices, sweets, and other items can be found repeatedly throughout the Medina. During our trips around Morocco, I don't even remember how many times I saw the same items again and again in different Medinas. Sometimes shop owners would tell us that their goods, especially jewelry, were unique to their location, and then we would see it in another town. So don't feel pressured to buy right away. If you have time, try to browse different shops and compare prices first, especially for expensive items like rugs or sophisticated lamps. Tip number 4. Talking of various goods. Keep in mind that not everything you buy might be authentic. For example, I've heard many times that you should always be careful when purchasing saffron because it's easy to fake and it's one of the most popular purchases among tourists. After all, beside its variety of wonderful aromatic spices, Morocco grows excellent saffron. However, while it's unlikely that you will encounter fake saffron in traditional local markets or souks used by locals, when it comes to touristy places in Medina, you need to be vigilant. It applies to other things as well. For example, argan oil that can be diluted with cheaper oils, pottery marked as traditional but actually factory made, or rugs. All these goods are very popular among tourists, and many shops compete for visitors' attention and want to maximize their profits by offering lower quality alternatives while claiming that they are authentic and offering high prices. This is of course not unique to Morocco. It's common in touristy areas worldwide where high demand meets opportunity for profit. But since we're talking about Morocco, particularly Medinas, I should address it. I'm going to make a separate video about 3 most popular goods that people buy in Medina: saffron, argan oil, and rugs, and hopefully give you some tips on how not to buy a fake product. So stay tuned. Tip number 5. I already mentioned that majority of shops in Medina don't have price tags, but it's not just about shopping. You should always be very cautious when it comes to services without clear pricing. This could be anything: a taxi, which I talked about in my previous video and I really urge you to watch it, or someone offering you a cheap guided tour, or for example a henna service, which is traditional temporary-like paintings that are offered to women in Medinas. This is actually really beautiful. I personally didn't get henna done, but I've seen quite a few videos where other women shared their experiences, and unfortunately they weren't great. The common issue was not setting a clear price at the start. Once the henna was finished, they were asked to pay an unexpectedly large amount of money. By then, it's much harder to negotiate because the service is already done. It also can happen that someone might literally grab your hand and start drawing on it, often saying that it's free. But don't fall into this trap and stop them right away. It's very likely that you will be asked to pay after that anyway, and you will be lucky if it is actually a small tip and it might be enough, but normally it's not. Now, I'm not saying that you should avoid services in Medina altogether. Many are legitimate and can be amazing experiences. The key is to be vigilant, prepared, and always agree on the exact price before accepting any service. Even if there is a language barrier, you can easily show the price on your phone's calculator to make sure both sides clearly understand what will be paid. This small precaution can save you from a lot of uncomfortable situations later and possibly even arguments. Tip number 6. Before taking photos or videos of particular shops in Medina, always ask for permission and, this is important, confirm if it's free or not. Some sellers, while they will let you take pictures, can ask for money after you've already taken them. And as I keep saying, whenever payment is involved, it's always better to agree on the price in advance. Otherwise, you might end up being asked to pay 50 Moroccan dirhams for just a couple of quick shots. That being said, many shop owners are actually happy to let you take photos for free, especially if you're polite and respectful and only need a minute or two. Just always remember to ask first. A separate but related point. Be especially mindful about filming street performers like dancers, snake charmers, or musicians. This is actually how they make their living. So if you want to take photos or videos of their performances, you should pay because this is their job and main source of income. And remember, only pay for things that you actually want. If you want to watch a performance or take a photo with an animal, it's something that you of course have to pay for. However, if someone throws a parrot or a monkey on your shoulder while you are simply passing by, tell them that you're not interested straight away. The moment you hesitate and let someone in your company take a couple of shots on their camera, you'll be asked to pay money, and refusing at that point might lead to a very uncomfortable argument. Tip number 7. Talking of filming and taking photos, please be careful with your phone or camera in the crowds. During the day, Medinas get very busy and there can be a lot of pushing in narrow streets. You might also encounter children running around and playing ball games, so make sure to keep a firm grip on your devices. You definitely don't want them getting knocked or dropped. And here's something important that I forgot to mention in my previous video about Morocco in general. If you're planning to bring a drone to capture some gorgeous footage of landmarks, you will need to get a registered permission from the authorities at least 2 weeks before your trip. If you don't have this permission, you will have to leave your drone at the airport for temporary storage during your stay, and you will have to pay for it. Tip number 8. Morocco is generally a very friendly and safe country, but when you visit Medinas, you always need to be mindful of your belongings. Keep your phone and wallet in secure places that aren't easily accessible, especially when walking through crowded areas. There can be pickpockets, so try to bring only what's absolutely necessary with you and generally maintain a lower profile. Avoid wearing flashy clothing or expensive jewelry that might mark you as a tourist with money to spend, and be aware that sometimes both adults and groups of kids or teenagers might surround you and start chatting, so it can be very easy to be left unguarded. Tip number 9. I already talked about clothes in my previous video, but just as a gentle reminder, try to be respectful when visiting Medinas by being mindful of what you wear. While locals in tourist areas are generally used to seeing visitors in all kinds of clothing, including cropped tops and shorts, wearing clothes that reveal too much skin might make both locals and yourself feel uncomfortable. When walking through crowded areas of Medina, you probably won't want to attract extra attention, such as unwanted comments that might be framed as compliments, or find someone staring at you inappropriately. Also, leave any uncomfortable shoes at the hotel or carry them with you in a bag, because the ancient streets of Medina are all cobblestones and uneven surfaces, so you'll be doing lots of walking, and a pair of comfortable shoes will be essential. Tip number 10. One thing that often surprises visitors to Medinas, particularly in Marrakech and Fez, is the variety of transport moving through the very narrow streets. While most areas seem to be pedestrian only, you will need to constantly watch out for motorbikes and scooters driving through the crowds, as well as donkeys carrying goods, hand carts being pushed by vendors, and sometimes even small delivery vehicles trying to squeeze through. Many tourist reviews complain about scooters and motorbikes in Medina, and I completely understand why. While local drivers seem to be pretty skilled at driving through the narrow streets, it can be quite stressful and even annoying. Some alleyways are already so narrow, and when they get crowded with people, it's challenging enough to just walk through. It's especially annoying when you suddenly hear a scooter behind you and there is barely any space to step aside. I've even had a couple of cases when scooters brushed past my arm. It's definitely something you should stay alert for while exploring Medina. Tip number 11. I mentioned in my previous video that in general you should check a restaurant's rating before going in. But we don't always have that opportunity, especially in Medina, where many places are just small local eateries. In these cases, always confirm the price of each dish and your total bill in advance. This is especially important if you don't understand the language and are choosing from pictures in the menu. We once got a menu with images and descriptions with prices. However, it turned out that the descriptions and prices shown next to the images didn't actually match those images. So we were charged a different sum. And even after we calculated how much we should pay for those actual dishes we were given, we realized that we were still being overcharged on top of that. While this is something that hardly ever happens outside of Medina, you should be watching out for this kind of cases in the old city. And tip number 12. I saved this last but definitely not least tip for the very end because I wanted to talk about it in more detail. If you've already done some research about trips to Morocco, you might have heard that big Medinas in cities like Marrakech and Fez are known for their friendly locals. I often come across this term online in other videos or blogs or simple reviews, although I personally don't like it because it sounds like it almost generalizes the majority of local people in Medina, while in reality we are talking about just a small group of street scammers. These people can be of any age, starting from small children to adults, who approach you in the streets of Medina and begin offering help, especially if you seem to be lost. Generally, the scenario is always the same. When you leave the main shopping areas and walk deeper into the Medina, especially into narrow and often quiet alleys, you will encounter people trying to stop you with phrases like, "Where are you going?" or "Let me show you the way." And if you appear lost, you're almost guaranteed to be approached by one of these people because they specifically target tourists. It's basically their unofficial job, and they're looking for visitors that they can make money from. You will also often hear phrases like, "Don't go there, it's closed, go this way," or something like this. This is very, very common, and there is a reason for that. Medina in Marrakech and Fez is like a maze. There are many long, narrow alleys that all lead to the same places. These people will try to stop you so that they can guide you to your destination, even if you are already going the right way. They might claim that your chosen path is wrong or closed, trying to make you follow them through another alley. Most of the time, the so-called closed way isn't actually closed at all, but even if it is, it's better to ignore the strangers and find out for yourself. You can always just turn around and find another route if needed. So why ignore these people? Well, these scammers are looking for easy money, and once they've helped you or shown you the way, they will demand payment. You might think, well, that's not a big deal, I can spare a small note or a few coins. But I've heard many stories from other travelers that just a couple of dirhams won't satisfy them. These people will demand more money, and sometimes they can become quite aggressive if you don't pay the amount they ask for. Don't worry, it's unlikely that anyone will actually harm you as a tourist, but you might end up in a very unpleasant argument, which can be pretty uncomfortable and even intimidating, especially if that person isn't alone but with a group. That being said, even if no one approaches you, try not to ask strangers for directions in quiet, narrow streets of Medina when you are lost. So, what to do in that case? Always make sure to have enough data on your phone to at least use Google Maps. Although Google Maps help a bit, it might start messing up with your location because of the overwhelming narrow streets around, so it's not always that helpful, but you can still identify the main road of the Medina on the map and try to move in that direction. There are a couple of other applications you can try, for example Waze and Maps.me. We haven't tested these ourselves, but I've heard about them from other travelers, and actually one genuinely friendly local person recommended Maps.me to us, and he said it was very good. Just make sure to download them in advance. If none of these applications are helpful, you can always look for a small shop nearby and ask the seller for directions. They usually don't ask you for money. If you cannot find any shops around, just keep exploring the streets. Don't be afraid to get lost in Medina unless you're pressed for time. It's just an old town, not some sort of dangerous area where something bad might happen to you. Some long, empty streets might seem a bit intimidating, especially in the evening, but Medinas are normally pretty safe, and even in general, serious crimes against tourists are very rare in Morocco. The only thing you really need to watch out for is pickpockets and scammers, which I mentioned earlier. However, try to stick to more populated areas after dark anyway. Another situation that can happen if you encounter street scammers is, even if you clearly say that you don't need their help, these people might ignore it and start following you, or even walk in front of you pretending that they're still showing you the way. Try not to interact with them even if they're talking. If you're not traveling alone, it's actually easier because you can engage in a conversation with your friend or a family member and simply ignore that person who is following you. The only thing that you should do is politely but firmly repeat that you don't need help. Never get angry or aggressive, it will only bring you more trouble than good. Usually, they will eventually leave you alone. However, if someone keeps following you, or if you are already fallen into their trap and now they are demanding a big sum of money for their help, there is what you can do as the last resort. Offer to go with them to the tourist police office. The Moroccan government actually takes tourism very seriously and prioritizes visitor safety. Usually just mentioning the police will make these people walk away. You can even pretend to call your hotel, explain the situation, and ask for tourist police directions or a phone number. This typically scares the scammers away, since this activity is technically illegal. Remember, these people can be of any age, and sometimes it can even be harder to deal with children and teenagers, but that is something I will share in my next video about Marrakech. And those were all my tips for you. But please don't let any of this information discourage you from visiting Medinas. Because if you travel to Morocco, you can't miss these incredible old towns, because they are the heart and soul of Moroccan culture. They have centuries of history, from stunning traditional architecture and ancient mosques to bustling streets. My goal isn't to create worry, but to inform you the best I can, so that you can feel safe and have the best possible experience during your trip, particularly when you travel to Marrakech and Fez, where you will need these tips the most. When we first visited the Medina in Marrakech, I was almost sure that I wouldn't want to go back there again. We even met other travelers who had negative experiences and literally decided never to return to Marrakech, or at least to the Medina. We, on the other hand, gave it a second chance and visited the Medina again, and since we were way more prepared at the time, we had a completely different experience and got a positive impression. Thank you so much for watching. As always, stay happy, healthy and curious, and please support me by leaving a comment or a like so that more people can find this video. Thank you so much in advance, and I will see you soon. Bye!